all of you out there in Wonderland. Marc Daniel Nelson here with MakeMineMusic. Today I want to talk to you about one thing I do to all of my vocals when I'm prepping them. Doesn't matter if it's a rock track, an indie track, rap track, jazz track, any type of music that I do that has vocals in them, I do one thing specifically before I put it through a vocal chain, and that is dynamic EQ, multiband compression. These two things, I believe, are very similar, if not the same thing. I'll probably be bashed in the comments telling me that, no, the multiband compression is this and dynamic EQ is that. What I think of it is that it's a ducker or a expander, meaning a compressor or expander for a specific frequency that you're going in after. So for me, when I'm going and doing my chain on a vocal, I want to send in a very good, clean signal. This is the area that I usually hone in on the mid-range and the top end of vocal mics that aren't really great. And sometimes it's the room that's causing the issue. Sometimes it's the microphone that's causing the issue. But in general, usually all microphones have problems in specific frequency areas. 200 hertz, 1K, 7K, the harshness areas of those frequencies seem to poke through really aggressively and cause the issue. Before I go into the song, I kind of want to talk to you about the philosophy of that a little bit. Now, in my vocal chain, I do have it set up where I put a EQ in the chain. Now, I will do EQ on this Pro Q3, but I'll also do dynamic EQ, which is essentially, for what I think of it is, it's essentially multiband compression. So I'm honing in on specific areas that need the attention. If I remember correctly with this track, it had some vocal problems in the S's range and some low-mid honkiness. I think it was recorded on a 47, but it still had problems. So this just goes to show you that even if you use a super expensive microphone, it's not going to be your fixer. Our job, mine specifically, because we're talking about something I'm working on, my job as a mixer, your job as a mixer, would be to correct those issues in a musical way that doesn't get in front of the deliverance of what the message of the artist was trying to give. Let's talk a bit about the track here. This was a song that was put out a few years back by the band Urbanites. The song is called Walking Away. It's a great track. The singer really did great. Steve is a great vocalist. I do remember having an S's issue, and I have the song here as a new mix today, and I wanted to do the damage control before we sent it through the chain. Let's listen to it. I'm going to play the second verse all the way through to see what we have wrong with the vocal. This vocal's, like I said, just kind of sitting on top of the mix. No automation's been applied yet. It's not going through any kind of compression chain or anything like that. I do have the Pro Q3 here that I want to use as my first response to tackle the issues that I hear. So let's play it.
You miss it, wandering the roads that are paved in skeletons. Are you looking for a friend to get it all back again? Every sympathetic eye is closing. You tell me as you're walking away, nothing's ever gonna change. It's all you ever want is space.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what we are hearing. I can show you that I'm hearing a lot of issues at around 500 and between 5K and 10K. The 5 to 10K is obviously the S's issues, and for some reason Steve's vocal was really aggressive on this 47 and caused the S's to really spike out in weird ways. So I'm going to do a couple different things on the S's. I'm going to put a de-esser on it, and I'm also going to do some dynamic EQ multiband compression on that as well. I do hear something in the 500 area too that's kind of honkiness that we can zone in on, And I also hear some stuff above 100 and going up to about 250, that area that has a little bit of the low honkiness. So let's dive into it. I'm going to solo the vocal first, and then we can kind of go and dissect what we have.
Just to hear the sound of a pulse among the dead. You miss it, wandering the road.
It's actually two areas of the S's. So I'm going to attack the 3 to 5, 6K area with the de-esser, and then I'm going to do a multi-band thing on top of it with the actual Q3, because that way it will actually help me attack two elements with different tools that do better at those areas. So I'm going to play it. I'm going to open up a de-esser in the channel, and I do have it kind of set at 5500, and we can see what this is doing. Let's pull this down, and let me put the de-esser before it so we can see how much it's adding. So right now we have it at 5500, and let's pull up the meter again as well and see what we got.
You miss it.
Better.
Wandering the roads that are paved in skeletons.
Now we have that done. I want to hyper focus into this area that actually will help me get a little bit of that top part of the S's out. And I want to listen to it first.
Wandering the roads that are paved in skeletons.
Much better. Let's take both these off and take a peek again.
Just to hear the sound of a pulse among the dead. You miss it.
Awesome. Let's pop that in, and let's go down to the next area, which is around 5 to 1K.
Just to hear the sound of a pulse among the dead. You miss it.
Right there, 524. That's the area that's starting to rattle a little bit. I'm going to end up ducking that a little bit here. I'm not going to take the EQ out. I'm going to do a little more.
Just to hear the sound of a pulse among the dead. You miss it. Wandering the roads that are paved in skeletons.
Much better. I'm going to pull a little bit more at the 5500. You got to be careful with the S's. You have to be careful with it churning into this. The key is to not make it sound like the singer's lisping or that you basically took their tongue out of their head. Let's move on down to the low mids and focus on that. I'm going to do a wider bell on this because I know it's going to need to be a little more subtle and not so focused. Right there. Let's do a little duck. Listen to it again. Okay, I'm going to duck this down a tiny bit. Now, what this is doing is allowing me to have a very clean vocal before I start coloring it with compression, maybe a little more sweetening EQ, and the whole vibe of the vocal. And it will just go into a compressor super strong now. It won't be triggering the little elements and the honkiness of all those little things. I don't like to do terrible amount of dissecting. This is pretty normal looking vocal for me. These areas seem to be always the areas that rooms like to resonate and have issues. Doesn't mean every vocal has that. It just means that a lot of the time vocals come in and these are the areas that are the honkiness. So 5 to 1000. Let's put it in the track, listen to it, and hear how it's sitting now, and I will shuttle in and out of that.
Hear the sound of a pulse among the dead. You miss it, wandering the roads that are paved in skeletons. Are you looking for a friend to get it all back again?
So the pre-chorus has an aggressive thing going on around 2K. So I'm going to not take down the EQ. I will only take it down so I can engage the dynamic part of it. And then this way it'll allow me to just get that part that I need tucked when it goes a little bit over the threshold. Ow.
It's closing. You tell me as you're walking away, nothing's ever gonna change. It's all you ever want is space.
I'm gonna put in the compression now and see how we can slowly add the color that I think the track needs. Now I pulled up the MJUC. It's my first call usually for vocal. I don't like to hit it more than a half dB, even on the hardest point. That way it will give me a little color, a little bit of glue, and I will fall down into my template then.
Alright, friend, to get it all back again. Every sympathetic guy, it's closing.
Now the next thing I want to do is pull up the MV2, and that will give me a little bit of low information coming up. I don't need to pull down the high level. It doesn't need it. I think for this, I think it needs to be more focused on just some of the lower notes of the vocal coming up because they feel like they're just ducking a tiny bit out. I'm going to pull it all the way down, and then I'm going to pull it up during the track. Now, there's a breakdown here. I want to pull up a little bit of the distortion vocal I was talking about earlier. Just to tap it in a little bit, give it a little more fur, a little more edge, and kind of just take it off and see where we're at.
Are you looking for a friend to get it all back again? Every sympathetic guy is closing. You tell me as you're walking away, nothing's ever gonna change. It's all you ever want is space. So you won't feel the pain.
Thanks for watching, guys, and have a great week.